Today, you guessed it, we're talking about hiring employees remotely. All right, so we're going to talk about hiring remotely, which is so crucial to the success of your remote-based business. And I can't tell you how many times I've made a mistake hiring people remotely. So first thing about hiring remotely, it's one thing to say that you have experience working remotely, and it's another thing to say that you've worked remotely or even you like remotely, but it's another thing to actually be able to work remotely. That's one of the things that I've actually learned the hard way. Is that people tell you all these kinds of things. When it comes down to it, they can't work remotely for all the reasons I've been mentioning in my other videos. So in an office setting, they can't avoid you, but in a remote setting, they can blame the internet connection, they can blame the power in their house, they can blame so many things that they can make excuses for knowingly to kind of piss you off. Now, I'm not saying everyone's doing this, but these are things that become disruptive to a remote-based business. And that's kind of one of the things you guys got to think about as you're hiring. So the first thing I look out for when I'm hiring is little clues that this person has actually worked remotely before. So one of the things would be ambient background noise. How much experience do they have? And as I'm talking to them through the hiring process, are they having trouble connecting? Are they having trouble, dialing in? These are all clues that if someone has worked remotely and has done it successfully, you're not going to have these kinds of issues. Now, granted, we're all human, once in a blue moon, but having consistency in that, it's actually one of the things in my consulting firm, Top Devs, we actually filter for. We filter out background noise, the ability for them to be able to articulate their points and not go on forever. These are all little clues. So things to watch out for is, do they show up on time is key, because they might have had to, if they've worked remotely before, they know that they need to make sure they have a compatible app to be able to communicate with you if they're using a Zoom or whatever it is. The other thing that you need to watch out for is, can they articulate their point quickly? Can you hear them well? This all goes back to structuring your environment and making sure that the structure in your company is going to be set up for success. If you hire a bunch of people that do not have that structure and just are not set up for that, you're going to run into problems. You're going to lose 10-15 minutes every meeting, I guarantee it. Sorry, my internet's down. Sorry, I can't hear you. Let me dial in. The list goes on and on. So make sure that you're watching for those skills as well as those soft skills of being able to articulate your point, but are they able to connect? Now, the other thing that's a big clue is, if you're hiring this person and 3 out of 4 times they're not in a standstill place, like in a home office or something like that, that's a clue that they don't have control over their structure, and that becomes a problem. So if one day they're at a coffee shop, the next minute they're at a hotel, something they're at grandma's, those are clues you're gonna have trouble with this person. I've suffered a lot hiring great people, but without the knowledge of knowing that these folks just are not built to work remotely. So that's another thing you need to consider. Believing in your culture is also a really big thing. When you work remotely, you need people to believe your vision and support you, even though they might not like the idea. The fact that they'll support you is very key, because then you'll have issues like I mentioned before. They're late for meetings, they're not engaged, they're not dialed in. They don't take that extra effort to do that communication. So that's another thing to really watch out for, is the engagement level of someone who basically is interested in making the company successful. If you're hiring someone who says, I want to work from home because I get flexibility, I can unplug, I can do that, my friends, those are huge red flags. I've done another video on this. There's a huge false sense of reality people have with working remotely. You could have a great life if it's structured well, and this is what I talk about on this channel, but if not, you're absolutely screwed. So we talked about watching for those soft skills, believing in your vision, and ultimately their technical skills on being able to work remotely. Do they take a long time to share their screen? Are they having trouble? Now there's some ramp up on different tools, but working remotely, you got to put that extra effort into learning these things. You got to put an extra effort into mastering these tools, or again, you're burning cycles and you get into that dangerous pattern that I've been talking about. I will leave you with this. Every entrepreneur is going to go through this, ups and downs on hiring and people that you bring into the company. I've lost folks, great talent, but be careful in a remote environment that you don't set them up for failure. I've done that a few times, and I learned my lessons that setting people up for failure is they leave their job as a manager or a director and you make them a VP, and all of a sudden you give them all these areas to do. Because it's remote, it technically should be a lot easier to manage. No. Don't underestimate the management required and the experience and the skill required to manage people. At the end of the day, we are managing people. We are growing with people and using people to advance the company, which means their satisfaction, their happiness, their level of engagement is absolutely crucial. I'll leave you with that. If there's anything else you think I need to cover about hiring remotely, or if you have any questions, let me know. Let me know in the comments below. And hope you enjoyed this beautiful view. I certainly did. Blessed to be here. Here's to success.